Learning to live with mental illness. Welcome back to another episode of Irrepressible. Ordinary people with extraordinary resilience. And in this episode, I am speaking to the amazing Aimee. Now, Aimee talks about her life of dealing with various different mental illnesses that she's been diagnosed with since an early age. And what I really like about this interview with Aimee is her ability to talk about some real serious stuff, to go in deep on that stuff and kind of share in a real brave and courageous way. But there's some real nice, light-hearted moments through this where Aimee's able to almost see the funny side in her situation, and I think that's a really rare thing to see. And that's why I really enjoyed this interview, because it meant I was able to ask Aimee questions that I perhaps wouldn't be able to ask people that have struggled with mental illnesses such as psychosis or things like bipolar. But Aimee was able to reflect on them in a way that made me feel comfortable, and so I was able to learn so much about the ways in which I should act around people that may be suffering in similar ways. Aimee's really honest and she's really courageous because she's still living the life with these mental illnesses, but what I really like and what I found really encouraging and inspiring is the life that she's still living in spite of these mental illnesses, and I think that will give a lot of people a lot of hope. So I'm really happy to be able to share this with you. If this is the first time that you've ever been here, please do make sure that you have subscribed and turned on the notifications so you know each and every time that we post a video. And sit back, enjoy this, and learn as much as I did from being able to speak to the amazing Aimee. So Aimee, how are you doing?
Okay, nervous.
Yeah, nervous is good. It just shows that you care. It means that you care about what we're about to do, right?
Okay.
And so look, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us who you are and a little bit about what you do in the world.
My name's Aimee. I don't do a lot in the world because I'm currently unemployed. I am on disability benefits due to my mental health. So when I do try and work, it always leads to a relapse in my mental health. So for now, it's just not worth it. It's not worth the hassle and the stress that it puts on myself. So see what happens.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because obviously I guess we're going to get into some of this. And you know, I sort of always talk about anybody that struggles with mental health is resilient to me. So look, why don't we jump straight in? Why don't you tell us a little bit about the adversity you faced that's meant that you've had to be resilient?
Most recently, well, it was the start of lockdown last year. I had a massive relapse in my mental health where I developed psychosis. But I didn't think I was psychotic. Everyone around me, well, one person in particular who is a mental health nurse and she's part of our family, kind of distant family, she kept saying and telling my mum that I had psychosis, and I was convinced I am not psychotic, so I was freaking out. And when I do have a relapse, I can become quite agitated and quite aggressive, not like hitting out aggressive, just more with my words and what I say and how angry I get. But this relapse was probably the worst one yet because I reverted back to my childhood and I was having serious flashbacks. Luckily, I've did a lot of research into psychiatry and psychology, so I knew it was happening to me in terms of the flashbacks. But I also have bipolar disorder, so I was manic as well, and that's a symptom. Psychosis is a symptom of bipolar disorder. So yeah, and it's looking quite likely that I've also got complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and was hospitalised on the 24th of April, and I signed myself out 8 days later because I was getting worse and I became terrified of a few of the patients, which I probably shouldn't have done because my psychosis got worse when I got out. Although now it's quite funny.
Yeah.
I thought I was the best pet owner in the world in terms of cats. I thought I understood cats more than anyone in the whole world. not that I could read their thoughts or anything, but I knew all their behaviours and I knew why they were doing things, and no one was looking after the cats properly. So that's just one kind of aspect to the psychosis.
So that was a symptom of it then, this that you became convinced that you knew all that about cats. What, that's a symptom of the psychosis?
Yeah, you can have, in terms of psychosis, I'd say mine was pretty mild. A lot of the things that I was saying before I went into hospital are plausible things that could happen. Obviously, it was exaggerated. I thought there was psychopaths coming after me, but I do know people that are very narcissistic and potentially psychopaths. I believe so anyway. So I was going on about how they manipulated me. They know my address. I thought they were coming for me. I thought they were going to get my family. Trying to think what else. Once I came out of hospital, I kept saying, I think I only said it to my boyfriend right enough, because I'm always terrified to tell my mum and dad everything, because I always feel like, oh, I'm the problem child. Oh, this, everything stems from me. So I was saying, it's like Harry Potter, and I'm Harry Potter, and everyone around me is protecting me. Then I decided we were all Norse gods. They had been reincarnated. So I was looking up Norse gods, trying to figure out who was who. My boyfriend was Thor. Can't remember who I thought I was, but yeah. Wow. So now that's just hilarious.
But I was going to say, you're saying that with like a smile on your face now, right? And like it's as somebody listening, because you're smiling, like I can feel like amused by it. But when you were going, what did it feel like when you were in it, when you were thinking them things?
That part of it was quite funny, because in my head I'm like, oh my God, I'm talking a load of shit. People are like, would be like, if I told people this, I tell them now, but if I told people this when it was happened, they would have been like, right, section, straight back in. The only good thing is, it's also a bad thing, is there's not a lot of beds in Scotland. Like, the mental health services are shocking. So I knew that I wouldn't get put back in, but still, I would.
But you had a knowing then, so you kind of knew that it was psychotic thinking. So there was a part of you that kind of knew it, but you didn't. But you still thought it, yeah.
At that point, I was still determined that I did not have psychosis. I knew I was manic. I knew that I wasn't well. But yeah, now looking back, I'm like, oh my God, I was definitely psychotic. It is funny, the things that I was saying, but before I went into hospital and also after it, I was also like the worst anxiety I've ever experienced in my life. I was terrified. I would not walk through the town myself or with someone for months.
Wow.
I was terrified that everyone I looked at, I'm like, they're a psycho, or they know that, like, I'm crazy or whatever. But yeah, that took a lot to get away from the thoughts of that. And also flashbacks. I was having those, and I don't know a lot of the triggers, so they can just come out of nowhere. And I feel like I'm going to faint. I started going out, like, getting disorientated. Then I freak out. I managed to begin to calm myself with that, though. I was like, right, you're having a flashback. Just kind of get out the situation, try and calm yourself down. And yeah, that was it.
So when you're, I hope you don't mind me asking this. If it's like, if you can't answer any of it, just say no. But when you're having like a flashback, then you're seeing stuff that happened in the past? You're seeing it, and are you feeling it as well?
Not seeing it. I used to think that's what flashbacks were. Like, you could see everything. It was emotional flashbacks, and also tastes and smells. Like, for some reason, I could smell raw chicken everywhere, and it was making me vomit. Like, I hadn't eaten in months, I think. So I lost a lot of weight as well, but it came back as like emotional, and I was having like all these memories coming back to me, but I wasn't actually seeing them. That was all like in my mind, that I could remember everything. And it freaked me out.
Yeah. And are you aware, like you say then, are you aware in that moment? Does it sometimes, or does it just overtake you sometimes? I guess sometimes it must just overtake you and you can't control it.
Yeah, it does. Like, I couldn't control it. I remember standing in my hall, And I started doing laps of the hall. Now I've got a small hall, so I was just running around in circles. And my friend was up, and she's like, just looking at me, and my boyfriend's like, what the hell's going on? But I could hear them saying this, and then I just stopped, and my friend went, oh, that's just Aimee, she's always done that. So I burst out laughing, and I was laughing for ages, and then I was back to running up and down my living room, running around in circles. I couldn't eat anything. I had really bad stomach issues, but I think a lot it was to do with my diet. I think I did definitely had a lot of like bad bacteria, and I was just feeding it with a terrible diet. So I wasn't eating. So I guess that's probably part of why maybe I was taking flashbacks. I don't know, and kind of been a bit delusional. I lost a lot of weight though. I went from like a size 16 to 18 down to a size 8 to 10, which is what I should be. So that was kind of perks. I'm like, yes, I've lost weight.
Yeah, it's quite amazing how you have a way of reflecting on times that are like really difficult, but like finding some humor in them as well, right? Is that a way that you kind of deal with it and manage it, I guess?
I suppose I've always done it. I believe that there's always positives that come out of negative experiences. When I was in hospital, a lot of people said that to me, that I cheered them up a lot because I was manic as well. But when I went into hospital, I wasn't agitated for a while. So I wasn't being aggressive or anything. Usually I'm only aggressive with people that are really close to me. So like my mum, my dad, my sisters, my boyfriend, some friends, usually not my friends as much, but people that are close to me. And that's why for years I would lock myself away when I wasn't well, because the guilt that you feel is horrendous after
guilt that you feel in the way that you've been towards people that you care about.
Yeah. Because I'm like, that is not in my nature. I don't deliberately go out to hurt anyone. I know that everyone can hurt people and not mean it, but it really, like, it's horrific when the feelings that I get when I realise that's what I've done. And then everyone goes, it's okay, you weren't well. And I'm pure, it's not okay. It's not okay. You shouldn't let people treat you like that. But I can't help it. I try, but I can't.
Yeah, because it still gets to you regardless of what people say to you, right? Is this something you've had to live with all your life?
Well, when I was a child, basically when I was first born, my mum says all you did was cry, like constantly. As I became a toddler, I was really, like, my behaviour was off the wall. I was crazy. If I went to sleep for, say, an hour a day, I'd be up for like 24 to 48 hours bouncing off the walls. My mum used to say, like, when you were good, you were like the sweetest child ever, but when you were bad, it was hard to deal with. Like, I was crazy. And it turns out it possibly could be to do with a retained moral reflex. I'm currently working with I'm trying to think what we'd call him, a neurodevelopmental therapist, and he believes that my moral reflex hadn't been inhibited, so that explains the behaviour as a child.
Wow.
So I'm working with him to kind of reverse that and have that away.
Yeah.
That the behaviours will calm down. But I've got bipolar disorder on top of that, which makes your moods go up and down and all over the place.
And how often does that happen for you? Is that all the time?
When I come off my medication, which is something that's, I'd say, a symptom in itself. A lot of people with bipolar disorder then decide, no, I'm not bipolar, that's just the way I am, and they come off medication and it's just a recipe for disaster. So when I'm on medication, I'm more or less stable, but if I come off them, I will go manic, so I'll go right up, and eventually my body's just like, no, you can't do this anymore, and I'll crash into a really deep depression, which can last anywhere from a few months right up to a year.
Wow.
So yeah, it's quite a serious illness that there is a lot of awareness around it now, but I don't think people truly understand the symptoms. They can read about them, but to recognise that in someone is hard.
Yeah. Do you think people how do you come across to people that wouldn't recognize that you've got the diagnosis? Because, certainly with the work that I do and that, I hear people talk about bipolar a lot, right? It's something that's kind of like out there a lot, but I don't feel like I've sort of known anyone that I recognize it in.
It can be hard to recognise, because
Yeah.
when I'm manic, when I was a teenager in my early 20s, it just came out as Amy's the life and soul of the party. You always have a good time when you go with Aimee. But the behaviours can be risky, like a lot of taking drugs, just going away with any guy, like myself, I'd just disappear. Going to parties by myself, no idea where I'm going. I would decide to book holidays and be like, right, I'm away to work abroad, which always ended up with me having no money and phoning my dad, like, help, get me home. Although I did have fun, I've got to admit that it can be fun. Trying to think what else. I think I'm wonderful. Like, I'm the bee's knees and I'm great. I suppose you have a lot of confidence when you're manic, which is quite good for someone who doesn't have a lot of confidence. I can appear confident, but deep down, I'm not really. Trying to think what else, symptom-wise. Spend a lot of money. Cancel all my bills. So I'll constantly be buying clothes. I also buy the most ridiculous things. Like, one point I bought a rainbow projector, which was for a child. The most pointless stuff. So my house can end up just cluttered everywhere with all this pointless stuff that I don't use.
Yeah. So how do you get by then? Because as you show up here, for the last nearly 20 minutes that we've been talking, I don't want to use the word normal, but you've talked about psychosis and bipolar and stuff like that. And if I met you and have met you and had a 20-minute conversation like this, I wouldn't have guessed it.
That's probably because I'm stable just now. Well, as stable as someone with bipolar disorder can be. I talk a good talk when I'm manic as well. Like, I'll appear stable, but I can be so annoying. Like, I know that I'm annoying. Now I'm just kind of like, if I annoy people, I don't care. But I used to be like, get so paranoid, like, oh my God, what did I say? Did I upset them? What did they think of me? But now I'm just like, nah, can't help it.
Right.
I don't even know. You would know if I was depressed. Like, I look seriously ill. I don't look after myself. My hair will be greasy. It'll be matted. I won't do any housework. Like, before, I've been infested with flies and everything. And instead of tidying the house, I would just spray fly spray. Like, fine, they'll die. But when I say my house is messy, it's Kim and Aggie needed to come in, basically. It was, honestly, it was minging. And now I just say, yeah, I used to be the best fly breeder in town. And my house isn't like that anymore, thankfully. It was my last flat, but yeah. And I move house a lot because then I'm like, oh, the memories that I have in it, I don't want to remember. So I'm like, I need to move. And then I do, which is annoying because that causes more stress.
Yeah. See, I've genuinely, in the 20 minutes that we've been talking, I've learned so much because you've talked about stuff that I don't know, I don't really normally hear people talk about when it comes to these things. I hear like the medical side and I hear people talk about being manic, but to actually see how that plays out and to kind of know, like you've said, that sometimes you sort of hide it really well and you maybe wouldn't know. When you talk about having all the flies and you say, and you just make a joke of it, then
you need to.
Yeah, but like, to me, then if I knew you, you might just come across as just like, oh, it's Aimee, she's just funny, she don't care about anything. Do you know what I mean? But actually, behind that, you're struggling with something.
Yeah, but a lot of the times when I'm unwell, I won't actually know I'm unwell until I hit a brick wall or the psychosis comes. I've been
Wow.
hospitalised twice, and my psychiatrist spoke to me at one of my appointments, and he says, you have something called rapid cycling. Now, I already know what that is because of like all the research I've done, but rapid cycling means you're manic and depressed at the same time. So you're just up and down, up and down. So one minute I can be having great fun, and the next minute I'm so depressed. I'm like, oh no, here we go. And then maybe it's like a coping mechanism when you go up and down. Don't want to be depressed, so you kind of force the mania side of it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's such a like, this has been so informative. Like, genuinely, I've learned so much from it. What would you say to anybody that might be in the same position as you?
Just ride the waves. Try and not feel guilt for an illness that you can't control. Try and be medicine compliant, although antipsychotics have horrific side effects. So I will never go on one of those again. But bipolar can be treated with anticonvulsants. So I'm currently on a medicine called lamotrigine. But when I was on antipsychotics, I was on one called quetiapine, and all I did was sleep like 22 hours a day. And then when I woke up, like the hunger you feel, you're not satisfied. You just eat and eat and eat. So I put on a lot of weight. My skin all broke out because I would literally eat the walls if there was nothing to eat in the house. I've been on antipsychotics where I have my boobs basically started leaking breast milk. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, but then I thought that was hilarious. So I used to just like, watch this, showing people, and they'd be like, Aimee, seriously, stop it. And I'm like, but it's cool. And when I told my psychiatrist, he started freaking out, flapping about the room, ran out, brought needles back, and he's like, oh, I need to get you a brain scan. That's symptoms of a brain tumour. And I'm like, whoa, calm down. It's just the medication. So every medication or antipsychotic medication I've been on, I've always had the rare side effects. So I avoid those like the plague. They do help a lot of people, but for me, no thanks.
But I love what you said about ride the waves, you know. I think sometimes that kind of simple stuff like that is all people can really do, right? Particularly in your situation and stuff like that.
And get help, like reach out for help, even if it's not someone close to you. Like there should be your local mental health team you can call out, like you can call into and speak to them. Although when I called the crisis team, I had a woman who was horrendous. She was so horrible. She said to me, what makes you think you're so important? Then she phoned the police and lied to the police and tried to have me charged. So I got a recorded police warning for being not well, which was really annoying.
Wow.
But in my manicness, I started a full campaign called The Forgotten Vulnerables. I recorded the call. As soon as I can't remember what it was she said to me, but as soon as she said something, I was like, record that. So I recorded the call, spread it all over Facebook, and yeah, she got sacked. But
oh wow,
I felt a bit bad, and then I thought, no, I've probably saved lives because people, that could be their lifeline, and she was saying the most horrific things for someone who's supposed to be trained in mental health. So that's a bad experience. Mostly you'll have good experience calling those numbers, but just my luck. I get
yeah. Listen, Aimee, that we've sort of come to time here. This has been, like I say, this has been really incredible for me. I'm like really grateful for you sharing in this way, right? Because I know I've learned a lot, so a lot of other people that watch this will learn a lot too, right? And that's from your courage and braveness for doing this. Is there anything you would add before we close it down?
Don't know, just reach out for help if you need it. Bipolar seems to be quite a popular topic just now, but as I always say, certain mental illnesses come into like fashion almost. So a lot of people will go, oh my god, I've got that. The chances are you don't. the chances are you're just having maybe overwhelmed with emotions, which happens to everyone. Everyone's life goes up and down. That's just the way of it. But it's when it really starts to interfere with your life and your relationships, that's when you should really consider speaking to someone.
Yeah. Incredible. Aimee, I want to say a massive thank you. I'm really grateful for you doing this, and I can't wait to share it with everyone.
You're welcome. Yeah, well, I won't be watching it back, so I'll be mortified.
Brilliant.